afternoon. Happy November. I know, kind of weird, isn't it? Already. Happy Wednesday. Already. Happy afternoon in my world. And I know for some of you it's the middle of the night or it's dinner time. I hope your day's been good. It's been pretty lovely here in Portland. Our class has been in session. Yep, they're on the other side of the wall again because Teacher Carolyn is out there. Move my thermos over here maybe out of the way. Teacher Carolyn's out with the students in class, and they've had the most glorious sunshiny days. Cold, because it is autumn, but it's just been splendid. And the full moon was in all its glory. We are just happy campers around here. Now, of course, the rain's coming, but you know, that's life. That's what makes Oregon so green. And it gets a little warmer because the cloud cover, so I guess we can't complain. And if we did complain, nobody would be listening anyway. So, how is your life going? Fill us in. Take a moment, introduce yourself, let us know where you're from, add your tulip if you're part of the tulip bunch, and then start the collaboration. I want everybody on this together. Today we're talking photography. Notice, pretty barren up here. I promise you there are lots of flowers. Yes, we have flowers ready, and great, great education. Promise you it's going to be grand. We have a pretty full house, so Carolyn and the class on the other side. Teacher Michelle is here, I'm here, Caledonia's online, Susie's online, and Teacher Rikki is going to be on camera. So yes, she's working on the tech side, but she's going to be on camera sharing her photography expertise. So if you know someone who needs to hear this, tag them, text them, call them, whatever, let them know, say, get on over, we're doing photography, because I know you're going to want to hear this. There's a lot of fun things. A little bit of housekeeping. For those of you in our international audience, we have a time change coming up. Sunday is the whole daylight savings routine, and so depending on where you are, we may be an hour earlier, an hour later, it'll be different. So next week, be aware, do a check, figure out what time you're supposed to be with us because there will be a time change. And bonus, Friday this week, we have another live stream. Yes, Friday morning, early my time, so 7:30 in the morning here in Portland, Oregon. So for you on the East Coast, it's going to be 10:30. For you all on the other side of the world, for once, I won't be in the middle of the night. So figure out what time 7:30 a.m. is in your world and join us. We'll be doing a live stream of the floral design exhibition at Lansu Chinese Garden. It's going to be so grand. Rikki and I are going to go off-site, take all the equipment, and share all the information with you. So that's my housekeeping story. Let's get started with some photography lessons. If you haven't introduced yourself, get it done now. Come on. And I'm going to have Rikki come up and join me, and I'll get kind of out of the way. But Rikki, you've been with us now, what, 14 months, 15 months?
June of 22.
June, July, August, September, October. Oh my gosh, 16 months.
Yeah.
So you're old
Quite a
school.
while.
That's
Yeah.
been a long time.
Seasoned.
I love it. So anytime you get something from us, Rikki has touched it. So every photo you see, Rikki. Every email you get, Rikki. Every video you get, Rikki. She is in charge of the world and has set up a photo studio where she shoots her things and then also uses this studio. So lots of information to share. And I hope you brought, a little notepad and some paper and pencil and the whole thing so that you can take notes. But of course you can watch it on replay as well. And you've got some pictures you're going to post tomorrow in the Tulip Bunch that you'll share with them.
Yep, pictures from today.
And then we'll have them out on social Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we'll do all the same drill with all the cool flowers. But now, it's all Rikki, 100%. So I'll see y'all later. Bye for now. Have fun.
Thank you. All right, so welcome everyone. Teacher Michelle, what's going on?
Well, we've got lots of tulips chiming in on Facebook, but we have a special guest that's with us today.
Is it my mom?
It is your mom. Denise is with us.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Denise.
Hi, Mom.
Okay, Tulips, greet Denise because she lets us have Rikki, so this is good.
All right, so today we're going to talk about vignettes, or kind of like little sets that you can place arrangements into for taking photos. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of my props and we'll get started.
It looks like your mom gave a shout out to maybe your aunt, Claudette.
Oh, is my Aunt Claudette watching?
I don't know, but she's tagged her, so she might pop in. If she does, I'll let you know.
Hi, Aunt Claudette. That's awesome.
It's a family show. I love
Yes.
Oh my gosh, okay, Tulips, we gotta really be nice because
The whole
we've got
family's
all
here.
these people here.
All right, so I always like to pick a fabric that kind of matches my design. And I guess I'll pull my design out so we can see what we're designing around. So Leanne made this beautiful buffet arrangement or entry table arrangement. So I'm just gonna kind of create like a little photo set that you can take pictures with. I chose this fabric, but it's pretty sheer, so I'm just gonna go ahead and fold it into a quarter. And then, because it has this kind of like gold detailing here on the seam, I'm gonna leave that in front. And then I'm just gonna place my arrangement right on top. And because I can see myself, I'm gonna move it so you can see it better. And then, just thinking of items that you might have in your own home to pair it with. So in an entryway, sometimes people have candles on their entryway table. So I have some candles here. These are just battery operated. And then people also might have a little trinket dish that they leave something like their keys in. I'm hiding all of my leaves in here right now. So like a trinket dish, some keys. I chose one that's kind of more elevated so that it kind of matches the height of my arrangement. I didn't want something too low to the table. And then I do have some leaves that I just went to my front yard and I found. And I'm just gonna kind of loosely sprinkle these around the table just for some extra decor. Ideally I would have a darker wood table than this light wood, but it'll work for today. So just sprinkling some leaves around. Any other questions so far?
No questions yet. Tulips are still chiming in, but I do want to give a shout out to Sierra. She's joining us the first time today as a tulip. She's been on live before, but she's come to flower school online, so she's a tulip now.
Welcome, Sierra. Congrats on becoming a tulip. Welcome to the bunch. So this is just a simple kind of fall entryway table. I always just try to think of things that like the average person might have in their house. So like, what does your entryway table look like if you have one? And then because of the season, it's likely that people have Christmas cards coming in. So it's like a final touch. I'm just gonna add a little bit of Christmas cards right here in front.
So pretty much you're looking for things that make it feel home-like and that people could visualize in their own space.
Exactly. Whenever I'm taking photos of arrangements, I kind of think of where you would see the arrangement, and then design my photo in terms of how you would typically see it, instead of just having like plain flowers. Oops.
Oh, mess up my arrangement, why don't you?
Throw it all off.
Yeah, the ilex berries pop off all on their own, so
Right.
they'll fall while you're talking.
You know, it's interesting that you do that contextualizing with the photography, because that's one of the things we teach in the classroom is when they're trying to determine what to create and they don't know, it's like, well, picture where it's going to sit and then anticipate what would be good in that setting. So
Exactly.
it's the same.
It's the same for photography, especially because when people are looking at photos, they're looking at the arrangement to kind of see obviously what it looks like. And so when you place it into the context of where it might go, That allows people to better visualize whether or not they want something like that in their own space. All right, now that we have it here, I'm going to quickly transfer it to the back table. That's why it's empty today. And then we'll take a look at this arrangement through the iPhone, which is what I take all of our photos on. So while I'm doing that, are there any questions, comments?
I do have a question here from YouTube.
Yes.
When you're shooting these, are you doing it just for social, or would it be things that you could use on a website for an online store?
Definitely for a website. When I'm taking photos, I try and produce the highest quality photo that I possibly can. That way I can use it for a variety of things, whether it's just an Instagram post or it does go up on our website.
There's a great group here. While you're moving things, I want to do a shout out to the crowd. We've got Dennis, Debbie, Tess, Claudette, I think you might know her,
Yeah.
Roxy, Irene, Gabrielle, Kirsty, Sailor, Sierra, Melanie, Amelia, Patricia, oh, and Michelle.
And I would add David, Drake, Joy, Harmony, Sherry, and Dorian are with us. So we got a full house today.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me.
And it
that I'm
looks
not
like they are
talking to
looking for hints both for social and website, so it's nice to hear that you're doing both as you go along.
Yeah. I kind of always want the option to use my photos for any purpose. So always just try and make the highest quality you can get, the best quality. That way you can use it all across all platforms. I'm just quickly transferring this.
So I guess I gotta go shopping for an entryway table, because I like it.
Go get one.
Well, you kind of have the low bench. That would be kind of your
I guess
Your
that's
foyer
true.
table.
That's true. I've got the low benches that I could stage that way.
Okay. We'll look at it quickly without the cards, and then I can also add them back. But just like last time, I'm going to show everyone my phone camera and hope that my cord reaches. Oh, I am too close. But so we take both photos, vertical and horizontal. So right now I'm looking at it vertically. I don't know how well it'll read on the computer, but that's also an option to view it horizontally. And then obviously, like I said last time I was on live, just taking a variety of angles, coming in close, maybe getting a detail shot of these really beautiful callas, and just kind of taking all different angles, changing your lighting around. Maybe you want to come from this side and get more of like the candle view, or maybe the opposite side and get that trinket dish.
It looks really cool when you come in close like that on the computer. You can see so much.
I got a tight space back here, so
Yeah, you do. But it's looking good on camera.
Thank you.
Sherry had a question.
Yeah.
Can you take raw spool pics on a smartphone?
Raw spool pics?
So
A raw film.
just a raw image on a smartphone.
Yes. If you have iPhones, you can take raw images. I'm not sure about other phone cameras, mostly because I don't use other phones. But yes, iPhones you can shoot entirely in RAW, and if you're not someone that knows what RAW means, it just means that you have the most amount of information possible from that one image in order to change it around in editing and things like that.
So Amy is with us from Eugene, and she's about 2/3 the way through her basic course, and she's like, boy, I need this on how to do staging and lighting and such.
All right, that is our first one done, I believe.
So, just scooch to the side so they can see it There we go, now they can see it staged
Yes.
really completely. Cool. Okay, so then we gotta go to number 2. Yay.
Yes. I'm just gonna clear this off really fast. Give myself a blank slate again.
While you do that, Marjorie had a question. She's wondering if you prefer indoor lighting or natural lighting as you might have outdoors.
I would definitely prefer natural lighting, even if something is something as simple as a window. If you are stuck to indoors, just because natural lighting is the most realistic, it's likely how you're going to be viewing everything anyway. But artificial lighting is a good option if you don't have natural light available.
And do you always use your cell phone for the shots, or do you use a traditional digital SLR or something like that?
When I'm taking photos here, I pretty much always use the cell phone. I use an iPhone 12. But when I'm taking my own personal photos, I do use my DSLR.
That was a question from Harmony.
Thank you, Harmony. All right, so for the next one, I have a centerpiece arrangement. So when I think centerpiece, I think dinner table. So that's basically what I'm going to create. I just have a little tablecloth here, and then I'm going to put a runner down as well across the table, just because this runner matches the colors in the arrangement very nicely.
I love runners. You can just layer and do so much with those, plus it hides scratches on your tabletop.
Yes. I think runners are probably one of my most used fabrics here when I'm taking photos. And that's because they just come in so many varieties and colors, and you don't necessarily always need, I wouldn't need a whole red tablecloth in order to make the point across. All right. Center that. And then I have some, what are these, wicker?
Chargers.
Yeah, chargers, that's right.
Oh, but they have
The material.
rattan of some sort? I don't
Oh,
know.
rattan. Anyway,
Pretty,
chargers.
whatever they are.
Yes. So I'm gonna put those down. I'm thinking a very high-end type of dinner placement. And then I just have some glass plates. I'm sorry if the noise is too much.
And your mom says she likes using a runner on the dining table.
She does. Maybe that's where I got it from.
Probably.
Matching wine glasses.
You know, as you're working on that, a lot of the conversation on YouTube is backdrops and how by having that opened with the plain wall turned out good, but that also the photos end up enhancing it as well. And they're talking about just even buying one of those trifold screens that they can set arrangements in front of to have a plain
Yeah.
backdrop. Do you have any suggestions for backdrops?
So I didn't mention this during my live last time, but I did make a post in our Facebook group, the Tulip Bunch, about it. I just use giant rolls of paper, colored paper, and it's just you get a huge roll of it and put it on some stands, and then you can, as the paper gets dirty and it wears and it bends and things like that, you can just cut it off and roll out some new. That's the most cost-effective, easy way that I've ever found for backdrops.
Well, then you can adjust it seasonally for whatever color you wanted.
Exactly.
And paper is usually matte finish at that point, so you're not having to fight shiny fabric. Sometimes you pick out a pretty fabric and you look at it through the camera, it's like, whoa, it's a mirror, it's so shiny.
Yeah. So this looks pretty good as a normal tablescape, and then again, because it's the autumn season, I'm just gonna add some leaves around. just to give it extra little detail, kind of bring some of the arrangement down to the table. And I'm not being like super meticulous of where I place these, I'm just placing them wherever they fall.
Oh my gosh, the hearts are flowing like a faucet right now. Drake says, "Hi Rikki, nice to put a face to your name.
Yes.
Do you have any tips on getting good pictures of fuchsias and reds, since you've got those red protea in there? I always seem to have a hard time getting the colors to read as they look to the eye."
Yeah, my best tip is just try and take photos of it in the most natural lighting that you can. That's like an even, soft tone lighting. And then I would say, if you know like basic photo editing, I would say like underexpose just a little bit. So make the photo when you're taking it just a little bit darker. And then in editing, go ahead and bump up the colors and the brightness of the colors. That way, if you take it at like a higher exposure, more light in it, those colors are going to quickly blow out and look super crazy intense too fast. But yeah, so I would photograph a centerpiece similar to this. Table setting. This might look like how you see it in a home for Thanksgiving dinner. But yeah.
You know, one thing I would love you to share your thoughts on, because you're staging it as a vignette, which is a wonderful way to show it in context. Then I know you also shoot it as just the arrangement, and then I know you come in up close. How do you choose your close, and how do you figure your angles, or do you just shoot a whole bunch to see, or how do you plan that?
When I choose my close-ups, I kind of look for the most interesting looking flower and the prettiest looking one. And like there's a variety of them, so like I would do a close-up of these really speckled orchids.
I know those freckles are so wonderful. Yeah.
And then maybe even the protea, like a top-down image of it. The Banksia.
Sorry, I called it protea. I tripped you up. It's Banksia.
It's okay, yeah. But yeah, even like a top-down angle of the Banksia, since you can't really see them from the front or the back really. So getting that top-down gives you just a view of those. And then just getting up close with your phone specifically. Yeah. So once again, I'm just going to transfer this to the back table and then show you guys what I'm seeing through my phone camera.
It's interesting you were talking about shooting it darker or lighter or whatever. With the iPhone, you can just tap it and adjust that light.
Yes. I'll show you guys when I switch over to my phone what Leanne is mentioning.
Dennis is wondering if you recommend white or black when you're shooting for a website.
It depends. What do you want your website to look like? Is the background of your website going to be black? If so, I would recommend shooting it on black. But if you want like a lighter colored background to your website, I would recommend shooting it on white or like an off-white, kind of like a cream color, something very neutral and bright. Because depending on your background color that you choose, it's going to affect the colors of your arrangement.
Oh, that is so true, because you can make an arrangement look completely different, because I always like things to be brighter and lighter and happy. But then when we did like Halloween shoots, sometimes we do it against a black, and we did the dark, moody, and it changes your whole perspective of an arrangement.
Well, I noticed too, when you've shot them on the light table, which really takes away every distraction, sometimes I'm not sure it's the same arrangement, because you shoot them
Yeah.
for our smart board in the classroom, and I pull them up on screen, and it's like, oh, who did that one? Oh, it's the same one, but it just makes you focus on different things.
Yeah, it pulls out like different color temperatures and tones of the flowers, just depending on what colors you pair it with, which is typically why I always like to pair them with kind of colors that already exist in the arrangement, or a very neutral color that isn't going to affect the flowers too much.
And that dang candle just doesn't want to stand straight.
I know, it's very crooked.
He is being cranky.
All right.
So another question that had come up is if you were shooting pictures that then you text your customer to show them what you're delivering, would you do it with a neutral background or would you do it with a setting? How would you recommend they do that?
I would probably say just the flowers themselves with a neutral background. That way your customer sees exactly what they're getting. If you put it into a table setting like this, they might be expecting a table setting to come with it. So, yeah, very, very neutral background. That way they can envision it in any home. Yeah.
And a marketing tip on that, if they have a vignette or a wall that's blank like we do with their company logo, when they take that picture, quite often that's the one that gets shared on social media, so they get a little extra mileage on those flowers.
What a great idea!
Sneak your
Teacher
logo in.
Michelle.
That's right.
Oh,
Heck yeah.
And you know, if they want a tip on how to straighten candles, they could go to our playlist, the Tulip Tuesday, where we show how to straighten candles.
We should launch our own playlist, apparently.
We need our own tips. All right, so this is what I'm seeing through my iPhone camera. And then, as Leanne was mentioning, to do the underexposing or overexposing, all you do is you click right on, and say I'm doing a close-up of this rose. I'm going to click right in the center of it to bring my focus there. And then this little sun, I can just move it up or down, and you'll notice that it makes the photo lighter or darker.
Oh yeah. Oh my, yes it does.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? I'm just always shocked at what you can do with a camera on a phone. I mean, it's just like, man, ooh, I love that.
Yeah, that looks yummy.
And then, like I was saying, I would come up above in order to photograph these banksia. That way I can see all of their textures, I can see their leaves, and then I can see the flowers around it that are complementing it.
So with your iPhone hooked up as it is, can you actually take a photograph?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Can you snap a few of them? Joe was curious how you actually take a picture with your phone.
Oh, yeah. Here, we'll come up here, bring this down a little.
Whoa, turbo.
And then all I'm doing is I'm clicking the round button in the middle on the bottom. That takes the photo, and then here you can see, here it is.
Cool, that looks great on screen.
And here's the one with the candles in it. And then same as the other, we can kind of, come from this side, get the plate and everything so you can see the table arrangement. And just kind of move around, get a close-up of these orchids because they look so interesting. And yeah, and even come to the other side, but my iPhone cord is not that long, so.
I was gonna say.
I won't show you from the other side.
Well, the cool thing about digital, and we were talking about this in the class, is it's free. You can
Yes.
take 1,000 images and delete. You're not spending to have film developed like we did in the Dark Ages.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they say now, film is cheap. I probably take maybe 20 photos per one arrangement, and all I'm doing in those photos is I'm just varying my exposure, so moving that sundial up and down, changing my angle, getting different shots of close-up flowers and everything like that. But yeah, take as many photos as you want, delete what you don't actually use.
Yeah, that's the thing that David always used to say is the difference between a good photographer and a bad photographer is just the number of photos you take.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could always get rid of a bunch and you never know when all of a sudden, oh, that's the shot.
Exactly. All right. I'm gonna move this off screen. Are there any questions while I'm doing that?
So Rick had a comment. He said he started doing videos of his designs for clients and it shows the full dimension and they love that. And then Sherry popped in and said, how do you turn your arrangement for a video?
Turn it like 360. We have our little turntable, which you guys have seen us use and design on. And then Leanne and I actually found this, I think it's a jewelry display spinner. But it's just like our little turntable that we use when Leanne designs. But it has a remote control and it'll automatically spin on its own. And we've done a couple videos with that, but yeah.
It's kind of cool because you just turn it on and it goes smoothly, whereas if you're doing your own little lazy Susan, it's jerky sometimes.
Yeah, you might not get the right spin. I think the video for clients is a great idea because a photo doesn't always show everything, it doesn't capture everything. And sometimes the size of things get distorted in photos, but that's a lot harder to fake on a video.
You know, I suppose if you were doing a video, you could even personalize it and say, hey, Shelley, look at this. Your friend is going to love it. And so you're giving them a positive reinforcement with your words, too.
Yeah, you can add like a little message into it.
And then she asked again if you use RAW. So, yes, you use
Yes.
RAW format. Yeah.
So when, just a random personal question, though I'm gonna put you on the spot. So when did you decide photography was your thing? What got you into that?
I don't know if I ever like officially decided. It's just always been, always been something I did. My dad used to be like the family like videoer and like photographer for every family vacation. And I was always really interested in what he was doing when he was using these cameras. So I just kind of started learning from him about photography and then just kind of never stopped taking photos. And when I got into high school, I kind of realized that like, hey, that's a real career you can do. You can go and take photos for a living. And so I knew I didn't want to go to like traditional college, so I decided to go study photography and do that. And it's worth it. Oh no, I should have taken this out of the water sooner.
I've got some towels right here. While you're doing that, there's a question here about how fast the video should be because some of them are so fast that it makes you dizzy. And so if you're taking a video, what kind of speed do you recommend? It says, can you elaborate on the speed?
For the spinning, if it's for spinning, I don't know if there really is like a speed option for the remote control spinner that we have. But either way, I would let your arrangement go around 2 or 3 times in a full rotation. That way, if they did miss something the first time it went around, they have another chance to catch that and see it. So I'm just drying this so I don't stain my fabric.
And you can film the video with your iPhone still, right?
Yeah.
And could you film it on slow-mo if your turntable was too fast?
You could film it on slow-mo. I don't have a lot of experience with slow-mo filming. But yeah, that is an option. And you can also kind of slow it down after the fact if you have available editing software for videos.
Well, maybe we give Rick homework since he's the one that's using the video. Rick, film it on a turntable and then film it in slow-mo, then slow it down and post it in the Tulip Bunch so we can see the results, please.
Exactly. Please and thank you, Rick. So lastly, I just have this lovely wedding bouquet, and this is the one today that took me the longest to figure out what I wanted to pair with it. But just a simple candlestick. I'm going to steal the not crooked candle. Watch it be crooked now. Add it in here. And then I enlisted Teacher Michelle to make me a beautiful sign. But so for a wedding bouquet, I would just do something as simple as this. I don't want to take away from the bouquet in any way. So I want this to be my main focus. So just really simple, basic items that you might find at a wedding in order to pair with it. So most couples have a big sign, "Welcome to our wedding, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so." And usually this is like where people sign the guest book at weddings. So taking something like the bride's bouquet and placing that near that. Then they have all the keepsakes and the treasures that they decorated their wedding with, as well as the bouquet.
You know, while you're holding that there, it's kind of nice to see how a black background, and a couple of people have said, any tips for shooting with black? And black is such a intense color. Do you find you have to adjust your lighting or how? Although with the chalkboard, I mean, it actually is a beautiful gray black. It does set it off nice. That looks so cool on camera. Any tips for shooting with black?
Yeah, when you're shooting on black, you definitely are going to need more light than you would if you were shooting on white or a neutral color, and that's because black absorbs light. Whereas your neutral colors and your whites are going to reflect it back onto your arrangement. So we have obviously the studio lights coming down from the front, but even if I was shooting on black, I might even put one behind to kind of like illuminate the back of my arrangement so it doesn't completely disappear into my background. All right, and then same thing, I'm just going to transfer this to the back and we'll take a look at it through the camera.
Here was a question. What are some of your favorite colors to photograph? And what ones give you the most stress to photograph?
Oh, that's a good question.
Interesting.
So easiest to photograph first and then hardest to photograph.
Yes. Easiest to photograph, I would say warm tone, neutral colors. Like our video that went out on Monday this week, the Caramello Roses, those are probably some of my favorite because they just are easy to photograph. They don't get too overexposed or underexposed in my lighting easily. And then hardest to photograph, I would say, are really vibrant colors like these. And that's just because even if you are shooting in a very normal way, these colors can have a tendency to look very oversaturated and like too intense and unrealistic sometimes.
Do you find when you're shooting white, it's hard to get depth on the blooms when they're like an all white arrangement?
Definitely. Those are similar to these. It's the same thing where these get too oversaturated, they're too bright, they're too colorful. In white in white flowers and white arrangements, it's easy to lose all of the detail in the petals and the actual shape of the flower itself.
I know it's Leanne's favorite color to design with, so that's why I asked.
Just to mess with you.
Those ones are just a fun challenge day. All right, let's switch over to fast. I have so much time left.
Oh, you're good. We're good. They're loving this, by the way. Every time you have a little tip, it's like an explosion of thumbs up and hearts.
Oh, good. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. So yeah, something as simple as this. I might come lower because my sign is so tall, but my bouquet is down at the bottom. Maybe even adjusting to this side so we don't lose this candle with our light colored background, or we could just move it over. And then of course, coming in close on the bouquet, looking at those roses specifically, the orchids. Sorry, I'm moving fast.
We're holding on over here.
Right. Don't get motion sickness, everyone. But yeah, so coming down lower so you can see kind of like the handle of the bouquet and everything. And then as I'm taking these photos, I'm going to focus in on my flowers. And that'll kind of blur my background or put like a softer focus on my background so that the words aren't what everyone is focusing on.
So Tess has a question for you.
Yes.
If you had a dream photo job, what would it be?
Oh man. Probably working for like National Geographic. I really love to travel, and I've always really, really loved landscape photography and nature photography. So yeah, I even made a joke the other day that I might just retire not retire, but like switch my job and go sit out in the woods for days on end trying to catch photos of little critters and things like that.
No, we're not allowing that.
I was going to say, no.
And not yet, not anytime soon, but like that is something I've
You're
considered
making
in
me
my
a little
future.
nervous.
I can just sit over
I'm
here.
not mine still.
No, not leaving the tulips yet.
Didn't we explain that this was a commitment?
Yes, Leanne told me I was never allowed to leave.
Right. Oh my gosh. You know, move aside so they can see that
Yes,
again,
sorry.
just with that backdrop. And then we've got enough time. What we should do is put all three arrangements together and
Yeah.
discuss how you could shoot those together as well. Because maybe you'd want just the arrangements and a candle or something. So let's kind of look at that.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, that does look great. So.
Let me pull these up. So if I was shooting all three of these together, I might put this one in the center, just because it's my vertical, and then I can kind of make a triangular formation.
If you want to hand me the sign, I'll grab that out of the way.
While you're shifting things, Rick wanted to know what editing apps you like to work with.
I don't typically edit on the iPhone. I edit using Adobe Photoshop. And that's my number one most used. When I do edit on my iPhone, I typically use Adobe Lightroom, which both of those are paid subscription. So if you don't want to spend the money on that, there are a bunch of free editing apps that you can use, as well as the built-in editing software on your phone itself is a great tool and a great option. But yeah, I typically just use Photoshop or Lightroom. I don't play around with too many other editing apps.
So then, putting them there so that they can see them on the table together works out well. Now let's put them on the back and see, so that they've got a plane. Because that, oh my gosh, it looks so cool sitting on the table though. I'm like, whoa, I like that.
Let's see. Maybe this one over here.
Roxy on YouTube, this is in all caps, so she's shouting at you, "You cannot leave, Rikki," followed by hearts, so shouted with love.
Well, thank you guys. I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon. This is the sitting in nature to shoot photos of critters is like a 10, 15 years from now, as I'm older. But yeah, so this is the 3 arrangements together. So keeping the 2 lower ones on either side, and then bringing my tall vertical right in the center.
Lovely symmetry. We
Yes.
talk about that in class. We talk about balance and form and symmetry, and it translates. It's perfect.
You'll notice as you do art longer and longer, all forms of art all have the same rules, they all coincide, they all have the same basic principles and things like that. So balance, form, all of those play into photography as well.
Sailor wants to know if you use any AI in your editing.
I just recently started using AI in editing.
What? How? What? Why?
Well, I showed you the twisted photo.
Oh,
I made that
yes,
one
you did. Yes.
If you guys don't know, AI is not great at people. So I showed Michelle one that I made, and it made really scary people. But I've been using AI just recently in this past week to kind of remove like graffiti in the background if I take a photo outside. And I just do that through Adobe Photoshop. They launched their AI software earlier this year. And you can just basically select a small section of your image, and then it pops up with generate with AI or something like that. Generative fill, I believe is what it's called. It's not perfect though, so you do have to babysit it and watch it, but it's been a lot of fun to kind of test and play around with. And faster. I don't have to sit and repaint little sections anymore.
And I'd say more than half of your time is on the post-production, on the editing side, isn't it?
Yeah, I definitely, I spend more time editing than I do taking the photos, I would say. And that's not because I'm going in and making like really crazy changes, it's just because I have a lot of photos that I take in one day, and then I sit there and I filter through all of them. The editing process is from when I unplug my SD card from the camera and plug it into my computer till I send off that final photo.
So when you're shooting for social media, the question was, do you prefer a vignette or the arrangement alone?
I like both. It kind of depends on what I'm feeling, what the context of the arrangement is, and whether or not I feel like the arrangement itself is, if it holds like enough weight in like visual weight. So something like the tall middle one, I might want to add a vignette around it just so I can kind of balance out my sides so I don't end up with blank spaces on either side, because if we're doing a horizontal photograph of it, I'll end up with nothing on either side of it in order to get the top of the arrangement all the way to the bottom. So adding a vignette like that. But when it's something like a bouquet, I typically like those just by themselves in a plain background with not too many distractions.
Debbie had a good question. She's wondering, and this is generic, but how difficult is it to learn some of the Photoshop options or apps, and how costly are the ones to use on a subscription basis?
Yeah, I believe the iPhone apps on a subscription basis are like $50 for an entire year that you get to have free access or full access to the app. And it's definitely more time consuming in order to learn like the deep aspects of editing. But there are hundreds of thousands of YouTube videos all about editing photos. And there's also hundreds of thousands of free filters that you can download and put on your photos that other photographers and editors have already made, that with small like slider adjustments you can make those fit your photograph.
There was a question that I can't remember who it was, but do you have any tips for when they're shooting something like this to put on their website to show scale so that they can have an idea of what the size is as they're looking at it. And I was thinking you could always put your hand in there, you could always put something that they would understand. You could actually even put like a ruler thing around it somehow, but any tips on that?
Yeah, you could add in like a ruler or a yardstick if you were looking for width or even height. Or you could add in like a glass that you know is just exactly like 12 ounces or 16 ounces. That way when someone asks, you can say like, oh, this is how tall that glass is, and then they can compare it to how tall or how wide your arrangement is. Even the taper candles, I think most taper candles are similar heights. I'm sure you can get taller and shorter ones, but just having like a standard item.
So that they could easily look at that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's interesting because when I was working with the students in class, I think it was yesterday, I was working with them and showing them that if they came in and pointed at something and they held like they were working,
Mm-hmm.
and then they took the shot of it, it really got a lot of attention and gave them a shot for social media that was very, very cool, definitely.
Yeah.
So then, if you had to, let's take the centerpiece up front because that one looks pretty great on camera. If you were shooting this and wanting to sell it, let's say we're selling flowers,
Mm-hmm.
what would be your most important thing you would focus on?
I would say like an overall shot of the arrangement, and then definitely like a close-up on your really unique blooms. Everyone always wants to see roses, so definitely a close-up on the roses, and then again a close-up on these orchids. That way you can kind of showcase the really unique flowers that are in the design. You can get the different textures. You could even, there are these fun little spiky red things right here. Even something like that, because they're not very common, might be fun to show a close-up of. Yeah.
When you are shooting for a website,
Mm-hmm.
how often should they redo things so that it looks fresh and new? Do they need to do it every week, every month, every quarter? What do you recommend?
I guess it kind of just depends on like keeping up with trends. So what's new, what's hip, what everyone's looking to buy already. Staying on top of your trends is going to drive more people to your website because it's going to show them that you have what people are wanting. But if it's something like if you're selling like a product like the Oasis floral adhesive, that's not something that you really need to update that often unless they change the packaging.
What are you seeing any new trends in how flowers are being photographed or website photography? I know for a while everything on a dark website background was very bold, but are you seeing any trends or changes in that?
I think right now a lot of what I'm seeing are people going for like very soft focus, very delicate looking images that even are a little bit overexposed. So they're a lot brighter, they're kind of popping everything out. And yeah, just that softer focus, making it feel more pretty and airy.
Kirsty piped in that seasonal changes to the website, which kind of goes along with what you were saying too. How about watermarking photos? What are your thoughts there?
I think it's a good idea. We live in the digital age where people will screenshot and download photos from wherever they want to use as them, and if you add a watermark in, then you know regardless your photo is protected, and no matter where that photo gets stolen and posted somewhere else, it'll have your name attached to it. You can also do that through like the metadata of the photo itself, but that's kind of a back end sort of way that doesn't necessarily put like your name across the photo. But it's definitely a good idea because you don't want people taking your work and taking credit for it.
Okay, Tulips, last minute questions, get them in.
I
You
know
got
you
4
got like,
minutes.
oh, you're giving them 4. I was gonna say you got like 1 minute.
Oh, that's been nice.
Get your questions in.
It's interesting how they did look together back there. I didn't even think about the photos on the wall, but they match.
They do.
Oh my gosh.
I thought you did that on purpose.
I did not. I forgot to think about that.
Well, it worked.
Yeah. So when you do your photos, and you said you oftentimes will take like 20 of a design, how long does it normally take you to shoot? Let's say these 3 arrangements.
Mhm.
How long do you schedule for tomorrow to get the shots done, and how long do you schedule to edit?
I would spend at least an hour taking the photos, and that's kind of like my minimum regardless of how many arrangements I have. That way I have like plenty of time to design a set around them if I wanted to get all of those different angles. Sometimes I even take photos that I'll shoot them on one background and then I'll go back through and I'll look at the photos themselves before they've been edited, and I'm like, oh, I hate that background, and so I immediately have to change my background. So at the very least an hour, but occasionally I end up taking them from like an hour, hour and a half to 2 hours, just depending on how many arrangements I have. And then as far as editing goes, typically on Thursdays, after I'm done photoing, I'll take my lunch and then spend the next 3 to 4 hours editing the photos and making sure that they're correct in everything that I want them to be before I send them off. So a good chunk of my time.
Absolutely. So one last question, it looks like. Dennis asked this question, but there was also some talk about changing the colors in photographs. We often see blue roses, which we know are only dyed, or things that don't come in natural colors. What do you think about that? And how about, or what do you think about a disclaimer if you've edited the color on a picture?
Yeah, I think if it's something that's like going up on your website or you're posting on social media in order to attract clients, don't change the colors of the flowers, because if you do give that to a client, they're going to be expecting something entirely different. But as far as just having fun in Photoshop and editing, do what you want. There are no rules. I personally don't like to, take these red Banksia and make them purple or anything like that. That's not my jam. I like very natural looking, realistic photos. With that being said, I have made like my fair share of really fake photos at the same time. So it just depends on your editing style, depends on what you want your customers and your clientele to see from you. And if you are going to do it, I would say that it's best to put a disclaimer on it, just so you're not giving anyone false expectations.
From the event side, I always love it, and that's in air quotes, when somebody shows me a picture of a flower and they're like, this is what I want. It's like, yeah, no, not real.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Someone
happen.
made that. Yeah. All right, any more questions? Okay, just as a last reminder for our international folks, there is a time change this weekend, so the live stream next week may be at a different time for you. It'll still be 3 o'clock here. So just check your dates and everything like that. And then if you want to, if you're going to be awake, join Leanne and I on Friday at 7:30 in the morning, Portland, Oregon time. We'll be at the Lansu Chinese Gardens, giving you guys a special sneak peek to all of the exhibitions. All right. With that being said, bye everyone. Thanks for having me. See you next week.